Welcome to Billy's List. Cool dudes who know cool stuff. Please like and subscribe to the Macrodosing YouTube, and I hope you enjoy the show. See you guys. Welcome back to Billy's List. Thank you for once again tuning in. If you haven't, please subscribe to the Macrodosing YouTube and like this video. This is episode four of Billy's List, and we have on our guy, the Moonshiner guy. Also,
what's up?
Looks for missing people on the side. So
A little bit.
One of our very interesting guys on the list, and let's just get right into it. So Moonshine.
Yeah.
Let's first get into Moonshine.
Yeah.
How did you start? How is it going? Is it as hot as it used to be during Prohibition?
I mean, I think the popularity kind of, settled off a little bit. Can't get Pink Whitney or Deep Eddy out of it still. But, I really got into it a couple years back. Growing up, me and my dad were just like great relationship, but very different people. He was like very artsy, jazz musician, like cool, super cool guy. But I was always, watching the Browns games, like big into sports, like got into a little betting, a little young, stuff like that. So we couldn't find anything to really like relate to each other. But one day we were just sitting around, the fire in the winter, and we just looked at each other like, dude, we both love drinking whiskey, so maybe we should make it. And that's really how it got started. But definitely not as popular as it used to be, I can tell you that.
So you particularly is your moonshine closer to whiskey than it would be some of these?
So I've experimented a lot. I do small batches mostly, but what we usually go for will end up being closer to like a bourbon or an Irish whiskey. We have two main recipes, but we've done like, tequila, gin, vodka. Vodka is really easy. We do it all, but whiskey is definitely kind of our go-to. Everything that comes out of a still will all look like Everclear. It's all going to be completely transparent, super high proof, knock you on your socks, like kind of all taste the same. And then it's in the aging process that it really develops a lot more flavors. So yeah.
So what you base, like, I know there's like a mash involved, and what you ferment to then distill is how it sort of happens. So what you use usually, and how does it differ when it comes from like whiskey to tequila or a vodka?
Right. So yeah, there's two steps to it. Moonshining is really easy, right? I mean, people have been doing it for years. Alcohol has been around for thousands of years. Super simple. It's a two-step process for high proof spirit distilling. So you're fermenting your mash, which is just like making beer. It's going to taste different just because of the ingredients, but it's just like making beer. And then from there, you take your mash and you throw it in the still, heat it up really high, make that liquor the ethanol evaporate, condense it, cool it down, and you'll get your liquor. So a standard mash for whiskey would be, it varies. Obviously, there's like rye and, 1,000 different types of whiskey. But for a moonshine, a classic moonshine, you're going to be having water, corn, sugar, and maybe a little barley or malt just for a little taste. But that's it. I mean, it's as simple as it gets. And then, of course, yeast to bring all those sugars and mix it all up and get that chemical reaction going to get your alcohol. For a vodka, potatoes, that's going to be where you're getting all of your sugars. So that's the main part, is just anything that has, any amount of natural sugar, you can ferment and turn into a liquor. Is it going to taste good? Probably not. Like, I've tried pineapple and stuff like that, and you think it's going to be like amazing, and it just tastes terrible. But a tequila will be agave, vodka, potatoes. Irish whiskey is going to be heavy on barley and malt. So it really just depends on what you're trying to go for. But the same process throughout the board is pretty much standard. You're going to do the same thing.
So I had this idea. So how beets are a superfood?
Yes.
Like beets are supposed to be like super good for you, great for your hormone levels. antioxidant. Could you possibly and I know there's beet sugar, and a lot of sugar
Mm-hmm.
comes from
Yeah.
beets. Could
Yeah.
you make a fermented beet type?
I don't see why you couldn't. I don't see why you would necessarily. I mean, like obviously, once you cook, when you're making the liquor, you're not getting any nutrition from any of your fruits or what you're fermenting, right? I mean, the only thing that you can eat it and it actually tastes really good. Once you ferment it, like if you're just fermenting corn and wheat, it'll you can taste the product after fermentation or even right out of the mash bat, and it'll be sweet. It'll almost taste like kind of like a cream of wheat or like an oatmeal almost, but really sweet. Tastes great. So like you could do that with beets and you would get alcohol out of it, but it's probably going to end up just tasting like really high proof alcohol and maybe a little like the earth. I mean,
Yeah.
but yeah, you could do it, man.
So when it comes to it, this probably takes a ton of equipment, right?
I mean, there's definitely setups where it's like thousands of dollars where these guys are trying to do really crazy cool stuff. But in all honesty, you have a burner, a big pot to get things cooking, and then your still. And like your still can be as simple as a pot still, which is literally just a 10-gallon cylinder of copper, and then a condenser coil, and that's it. I mean, it can be super, super simple. I think my first still cost me about $300 for everything in total. Copper, food grade copper being the most expensive part.
I mean, copper in itself is so expensive that food grade copper. Do you know the difference? Like, what's the standard?
I mean, in all honesty, like I couldn't tell you the chemical like composition of this copper. All I know is I'm not gonna go if it says food. I'm gonna fall for the marketing. Like I don't know if it says food grade. I'm gonna try it because I don't want to leach anything into my liquor that gets like that bad rap of moonshine, right? Which has nothing to do with the metal that you're cooking in, but like a non-food grade copper is going to patina and get that green on it really quickly, whereas a food grade copper is going to hold up a little better to like scorching and the elements. I mean, you still want to keep it clean and all that, and you clean it after every time, but I think it really just has to do with try not to leach nasty flavors into your liquor.
And that oxidation. So like, it's probably it probably has to do with the pureness of the copper, because like the Statue of Liberty, I know it was bronze, and I think bronze is like copper, nickel, and the Statue of Liberty when it was first built looked brown, like the classic copper type, and now it's green. So food grade probably is so pure that it doesn't have those impurities like bronze to like make it oxidize. So
like I said, I don't really know.
Yeah, but that's what I'm just guessing.
If it gives me like a little false hope or like that my product's gonna taste better or that it's gonna be safer, like I'm in for it. I'm here. I'll spend the extra $50. That's fine with me.
Now, are you selling it?
No. So strict no sell. So a lot of states. I think it's like 46 states or something. Producing your own high proof liquor is illegal. You can be like, especially over a certain amount. I can't say obviously for every state, like if there is a limit, but it's illegal to make, right? Now where I'm from, Ohio is one of the rare states that they don't care. As long as you don't sell it and it's like, you're fine. If you do try to sell it and Uncle Sam doesn't get a cut, that's a really big hefty fine and possibly like a good sentence in the slammer. So I'm actually in Mississippi right now, and it's highly illegal down here because they had so much. It's just kind of that part of the country where they've had a lot of problems, a lot of violence because of it. Back in the day, I mean, we're not going to see like a Mississippi Al Capone going to shoot up people, but so it is illegal here. So anytime I do it, I go back to Ohio and I'm just with my dad. I really just do it like with my dad as kind of a hang around, drink some beers, like let's make our own liquor kind of thing. But yeah, so it just depends state to state. But I do not sell it. I give it away for gifts. It's great for like those weird like friends that still kind of keep in contact. And like
Yeah.
if they give you a Christmas gift and you're like, yeah, definitely wasn't gonna get you one, but here's a jar of my liquor. Beautiful.
Huge. That's a huge move.
Yeah.
No, I mean, now that I think about it, that whole taxation of distilled liquor is dated back to like the Whiskey Rebellion, which was
Oh
like,
yeah.
that's a crazy part of history. Just
Yeah.
like,
No, it's America will always drink from here on out. Like I truly believe that. But if Uncle Sam doesn't get a cut, they're gonna be pissed. Like that's just how it works, you know?
the Whiskey Rebellion was one of the rare, I think the only time in history a standing American president led an army to on its own land or even abroad. Like George Washington literally brought the army, the commander in chief, as it was supposed to be back then, led his men to squash a rebellion in Western Massachusetts, I want to say, where they were distilling their own liquor and they were pissed about the taxation from it. So they were just like,
it's funny to think like, you know, leader of the free world to just be coming in and be like, yo, man, like you got to keep this liquor going. Like, what are we doing here? And like
yeah,
just going all out for that.
yeah. No, that's crazy. So like when you're doing the aging process on a small scale, like we all know about the
Mm-hmm.
large stills and the large, factory stills where they're putting it into barrels and
Right.
all that. How do you manage that on a small scale?
Yeah. So I mean, there's definitely like a lot of ways. There's, you know, I would say 5 or 6 solid ways that people do it. However, I've only really done 2 because in my opinion, they're the only 2 that are worth my time or that aren't going to drive me absolutely insane. So you can bottle we call it white lightning, that comes out of the still. It's the transparent stuff. You bottle up your white lightning, put it in your mason jar, and then literally off of Amazon, or I mean, I use brewing supplies because it's just local, a little better, a little easier to get. They just sell these packets of wood chips basically that are kind of pre-aged and have a lot of good tannins. The tannins are the oils in the wood that are going to give you a lot of that flavor. And you just throw them in there. You put it in your basement in a dark, cool place for, say, anywhere from a month to 4 months. Anything over that, you're kind of just, it's not going to get anything. And then boom, you have your bourbon. Those are a little harsher. The flavor in the end are a little harsher than the next option, which is buying really tiny barrels, like charred oak barrels. So it's literally just the same thing as the giant big 45-gallon, 50-gallon barrels, but on a super small scale. So I buy like 2 to 3 liter barrels, and I'll age them in there for about 6 to 7 months. And because the surface area is so small, and if you aerate it a few times, just, you know, every month or so, give it a shake. That 6-month aging process would be the equivalent of about a 3 to 4 year aging process in a big barrel. So those come out way better. It takes a little more time and your liquor will evaporate. So you're going to lose some product. But to me, it's completely worth it. Like if it took me 24, 36 hours to make this batch, like I want it to taste good, you know, and I'm willing to lose that product as long as it does taste good. So those are the 2 real big options that I use. People do some crazy stuff though, like with electricity, and they do crazy things, and it's, to me, not worth it because I can't afford that. But what I get tastes pretty good. So
Are they doing? Are they like electrifying the alcohol to like?
yeah, it's like I don't know. And then they're like put like their own flavoring syrups in, and they're like a syrup and then electricity like dilute. It's crazy. I looked into it one day and I was like, I'm not Bill Nye. I'm not doing this. This is not worth it.
That's awesome. So have any of your, so is it a common sort of fear that you're going to brew something or distill something that's going to make people blind?
So I knew this question was going to come up. The answer is, I mean, yes, like that happens. But as long as you're not dumb, it's super easy to avoid. So the thing that makes people blind is the methanol. Methanol is bad. Methanol is the bad alcohol. It's still alcohol, and it's hard to, I mean, it tastes really bitter, so you can taste it. Like if I'm collecting, they call them the hearts of the batch. So there's different steps, but the hearts is what you keep. If you taste it and you immediately get the instinct that you want to spit it out, that means you have methanol still. But it's really easy to avoid that. You just throw out your first like 2, 3, 4 ounces of the batch, use it as lighter fluid, put it in your gas, your lawnmower, doesn't matter. But if you just throw it out, certainly the rest of what you're getting is just pure ethanol, which is the good alcohol, which you can get in between 195 and 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Anything past that, and especially past 212, you're going to get it's going to taste terrible, but you're not going to die.
So the methanol is what makes you
methanol can kill you. Methanol can kill you, can make you go blind, but I've never once had it. Like there's been, I think my first batch, I like tasted it and immediately spit it out and was like, something's terribly wrong. Like this is not, it tastes like you just stuck a pump like from the gas for the gas pump in your mouth, and you're like, this is not right. So just spit it out, and then you just collect a little bit, which is called the 4 shots. The 4 shots are the stuff that you don't want to drink anyways. You just collect the 4 shots, throw them out, and you're good to go.
Wait, so you said, so is that sort of the methanol? You said you could put it in your lawnmower. Are you saying that you could possibly create your own gasoline?
Hey guys, gas prices are up. I'm not going to suggest it, but if you have a still sitting around and a couple couple 100 pounds of corn, make some moonshine, throw it in your lawnmower, throw it in your truck. You're good to go.
How actually, at what point would the gas prices get to the point where like brewing your own methanol, how much do you think it would be, like $15 a gallon?
I mean, let me tell you, if it gets to that point, like I'm buying a little beach cruiser and I'm riding around on a bike. But yeah, I'd say I think my limit would be like $12. I drive a truck. I work construction. I drive a truck. I can't afford that. Like, it's crazy. So yeah, I mean, I live in Mississippi. There's plenty of cornfields. I'll hit up one of my farmer friends, get a couple bags, and he can get in on the cut.
How much do you think? How much would a gallon of, if you were to brew, like try to get methanol?
Oh, dude, I truly have no clue. I mean, so it actually like it'll run off of ethanol too, the methanol and the ethanol. Like you'll see at gas pumps, like 10% ethanol or whatever. You're just putting in a much higher proof of that ethanol into your truck. But like I think it's what Discovery Channel does the Moonshiners, either Discovery or History, I forget. But like I've seen an episode where, I mean, super dramatized, but I've seen an episode where they're like, oh, gas is way too high, and they just start cooking gasoline in the forest and start selling it out to people for like $2-3 a gallon. So it's crazy. I wouldn't put it in my truck because I pay a car note on that and I'm in debt, so like don't want to do that. But if it really got that bad, or like zombie apocalypse, world end, I know how to cook up some gasoline.
That's actually huge. I mean,
doomsday preppers. I'm not really one of them, but like we could get there.
Joe Biden, you're gonna hike the gas prices. We got answers.
We got answers. Let's get to West Virginia, Tennessee, and see what happens.
Dude, that would actually that'd be a crazy time if we had guys still it up. Actually, that's actually good to know. That's actually huge to know.
Yeah. I mean, it is actually kind of cool because if you were in a pinch, like if things got really bad, like I would know how to, you put it in your generator and you got lights and what you need. So it is a useful, I mean, like I've never used it. I don't really see myself using it, but it is a useful thing to know.
Yeah, there was a thing in The Walking Dead where everyone, like a lot of people were like getting mad that they were like so many years away from when the apocalypse hit and they were still able to use trucks and cars. Yeah. And they're like, the gas should be expired by then. Where are they getting the gas?
Thinking about that, like in Zombieland, like you see Woody Harrelson like walking around in his Hummer or driving around in his Hummer, and you're like, those pumps work? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah. So the plot hole, there was like some Q&A, and they're like, oh, the plot hole is that they were making methanol just off camera because it wasn't that, that was how they filled the plot hole. And I didn't watch the rest of the series, just that was up to where I watched. I think they may have plugged in a scene somewhere.
Right.
But they must have been making, I didn't understand how they're making gasoline, but they must have been making ethanol. But yeah.
Sure.
No, so I heard you might be getting a Billy's List batch from.
Yeah. I've been working on a little Billy's List batch. It's like a cross between. I honestly just combined my two recipes between bourbon and my Irish whiskey, and so it's aging. I've given a little test. Still needs a lot of time in the ager. It's a little harsh. It'll knock your boots off. But when that's done, we can get it to HQ somehow. Give it to Arian. I don't know what's going on, but
he'd probably love that stuff.
I can promise you, 100% safe. You're not gonna go blind. Like I drink it a lot during the holidays and all that. We're good.
No, it's funny. Arian's someone who probably didn't. He definitely drank, but he definitely like during his NFL career didn't really like have every week he had to be training and stuff. So he never really got into casual drinking. And now that he's retired, you can tell that like he's really getting into like wine and like going to baseball games and like activities where you can casually drink. So I think you really would enjoy some moonshine. But when so I like one of the whiskeys I really like is Woodford. I got
Woodford Reserve.
Yeah, I really like the taste of that. I think it's a bourbon technically, and I like some of the smokier scotches on occasion, like the real like peaty, like
super
taste.
peaty.
Yeah. So what kind of flavor?
What my dad likes.
Yeah. What kind of flavors are you getting into
so,
when you're?
So actually, the Woodford Reserve. I'm glad you brought that up. They have a double. We're gonna get so bro right here. This is gonna sound so whiskey, bro. They have a double oak, which is like, it's a pretty nice bottle. It's like a $50 bottle, but it's by far my favorite whiskey liquor any out there. It is amazing. It's so smooth, and it has really forward like caramel notes, and a little smokiness. So like I've been trying to experiment, trying to get that going. It really just has to do, like, obviously they do it way better than me. I'm not claiming I have the best products in the world. They have technology. They have these barrels that have been around for ages. That's what they do. But I'm trying to get a little caramel notes going. Like that's what I really like in my whiskey because it kind of smooths it out. But my go-to, I'm going to the liquor store, just got paid. Money's a little up in the account. I'm buying Bushmills Irish whiskey. It's just like Jameson, but I think it's better, a little cheaper, and it's so smooth. You can drink it neat. If you're feeling it, you can put it on ice. I don't know why you would, but that's my favorite. So I kind of I've really been trying to get a good Irish whiskey going too. The only problem with that is that you have to have malt extract, which is pricey. And it's pricey, and the variation you get batch from batch, like even if you're using the same supplier, some is super bitter, some super sweet. It's really hard to kind of control that. That's where like a big distillery is going to have all the power in the world, is because they have their own malt extract, right? They keep it at the same level every time. It's going to taste the same. That's why you always know what you're going to expect, or you always know what you're going to get with the Jameson, with the Bushmills, with a big brand like that. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to go caramel notes and as smooth as possible is really what we're going for when you're making your own moonshine.
Nice. So I'm actually now very looking forward to this this Billy's List mix.
Yeah,
that's
dude,
gonna be awesome.
For sure.
No, so moving into some of your other escapades. I mean,
also I'd like to say, lawyer guy, I got your question. I'll answer at the end. I got.
Oh yeah, why don't we take now
the moonshine ones really quick?
Let's get some chat questions.
Yeah. So lawyer guy, there's two really easy ways to get into it. The first way that's going to be super cheap is go to a brewery or whatever and be like, hey, can I buy a 10-gallon keg off of you? Empty keg, 10-gallon keg or 15-gallon keg. Get it for $30-$40. and then go online and just look for 15-gallon keg condenser. You can buy it for like $70. It hooks right onto the top of the keg, and you cut a hole in your keg and you have a still. I mean, it's that easy. The other really good way to get into it is, I don't know, no free ads. I'm going to do it though. Clawhammer Supply is what I got my first still on. They sell little 1 gallon, 5 gallon, I think 10-gallon stills. You get a whole kit for $250, something like that. They walk you through exactly what you have to do. You still make the still, so it kind of, you feel like you're in the 30s, like you're in the Prohibition era because you're making your own still. Super cool, but really easy to get into. And then from there, you just need a really big crawfish pot and a burner, and you're good to go.
Perfect. Let's see if we got any more. Okay, cool. So getting to some of your other escapades, you're doing the Lord's work out there. You're looking for missing persons. How did you get into that? What's the...
Yeah. So first of all, how I got into it, I have my bachelor's in IT cybersecurity. So I went to University of Cincinnati, go Bearcats. But I kind of just stumbled into that. I was in like one of those exploratory, like undecided exploratory is what they call it now, programs. And dude, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I decided like, all right, IT, I'm good with computers. Like, let's just go into IT. Let's figure it out. So I go into IT, get a pretty good internship around the Cleveland area, and just kind of stumble into their security department. And like from there, I was hooked. I was like, yo, this is sick. Like, I feel like a little hacker. Like, I got into physical security, so computer systems, cameras, digital locks, RFIDs, things like that. And then out of school, I got a job right away with a security company in Ohio. And I was a security analyst for their midnight shift. So I worked midnight to noon, 4 to 5 days a week. And I was really just looking at incoming packets on the back end, packets being data. And if I saw something sketchy, I flagged it, sent it up to the higher level, got in contact with the customer, like, hey, there's a hacker, looks like it's coming from Russia, looks like it's coming from China, things like that. So that's how I got into security. Now, when I was in security, like I really did enjoy it, but I got burnt out so quick. It was height of quarantine. Like I was just working the midnight shift, kind of just wasn't really feeling it. And then my company really pushed for like out of company training. So like getting hands-on with other parts of security, because cybersecurity is a huge umbrella. I mean, there's so many different industries or ways in the industry you could go. So one day I kind of just got into OSINT, which is open source intelligence. So all it is like really in-depth Instagram stalking. Like it's the easiest way. It sounds weird, but it's the easiest way to explain it. It really is just the documentary Don't Fuck with Cats. Like that's what I was doing on the side to try to like gain some more skills. So that's how I got into security. I am now out of security. That was my choice. It's just I'd rather do it on the side and not have it consume my life, because I was kind of just behind the screen all the time, got really tired of it. And started to really lose like what I liked about it. So I stepped away, but I do still do it on the side. Don't get paid for it, completely volunteer. And but that's kind of my story into the industry and where I am now.
Now, before we get into, your tactics and how you go looking for missing persons, going back to your cybersecurity background, when you're looking at these packets and, loads of information that you see traveling through different servers, you mentioned that you saw people were going after information from China and Russia. Was it always from there? Which sort of foreign entities, like locations of these people doing it, and what did these packets sometimes contain?
So good question. Obviously the big ones are going to be the ones that are really easy to spot, because that's what you're trained to look for. Russia, China, in a lot of South American countries, actually. Russia and China being the biggest, government threat. So those are the security world is very interconnected. It's very kind of teamwork. Say a higher end former NSA hacker is seeing like this new big threat coming in. He'll send it to the entire community, and then we see that. And then, my company had proprietary software that they're just scripts that take in all that information and kind of just show you like, hey, this is today's biggest threat. It's a new one. We have ways to stop it, but like be on the lookout for this. So Russia and China were the two big ones. When it comes to like, Bitcoin mining and crypto mining in general, or just the spammy scam phishing, it's going to come from your South American countries, a lot of Brazil, Argentina, Chile. And then you also get a lot of coastal African regions that are super, super advanced for what we think of them as the industry. They're doing just as much as China and Russia, but they're doing it for different reasons, right? China and Russia is trying to steal secrets, whereas coastal African countries or South American countries, they're looking for money. It's all in for the money. So those are the biggest actors. Obviously, you do get like a lot of one-off. You get a Norway, you'll get like a Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is kind of a bigger one too. You'll get an Israel. You'll get kind of these one-offs, but for a lot of them, it's China, Russia, South America, coastal Africa.
So then in the information pack, like in those packets, are those just you're seeing the signs of people coming in?
Yeah, it's not necessarily signs of people coming in. It's really, any given night I would have anywhere from 15 to 30 clients. It's literally 30 tabs, and I have their packets come in, right? You just really get to know the client and what is normal and what is like, never seen that before. Like, why is there a janitor logged in at 4 a.m. looking at these files? So it's really pattern related. And then when you do see that, oftentimes it's going to be script, PowerShell scripts, which is Microsoft scripting language. Those are the really easy ones to spot, because it's like, this should not be running at this time of day at all. Especially from this computer far out in their organization. So it really is just kind of pattern learning. And then the other cool thing that you'll see on the job when you're looking at those packets is you'll find things that really stand out, and you're like immediately like, whoa, like they're downloading everything. This is not right. And so you'll escalate it, and I would say 95% of the time, it's a hired penetration tester that company paid legally, has a contract signed to be able to do this, try to get to a certain part of that organization, whether it's a computer, whether it's a file, whatever it is. 95% of the times, the really big ones are going to be pen testing, and it's like cool to get that. Like call them right away, like, yo, what's going on? And like the networking guy's waking up from like a deep sleep. He's like, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, I have a pen test going on. It's like, all right, well, we caught it. And he's like, well, that's good. Goes back to sleep, and that's it. Those are really cool though. Those like give you like that satisfaction. You're like, yeah, I just did my job really good. Like,
yeah,
we're here.
Would you ever go on the other end and be a pen tester, or is that more hacking that is a different skill set?
Yeah, so I mean, in all honesty, like I chose OSINT because I do that on my free time because it makes sense to me. It's easy for me. I've gotten good at it. The hacking is a completely different world, super technical. There are really easy things you can do that I learned in school. A state school. This is a state public school that will teach you how to hack. You just got to pay them a lot of money. But I did do that. I had an internship where I was kind of on that red team. So it's called blue team and red team. Blue team being what I did, which was defense, and then red team being attacking, right?
Yeah.
So I did have an internship rotation where I was kind of on the attacking end. And but I specialize more in the social engineering and the physical security of that when I was doing it. As far as these hackers, I mean, it's like I don't know if you've ever seen Mr. Robot. The industry, like guys around the industry will tell you that's the best like example of true world hacking and like how they move around and how they get what they want that you'll see out there. I don't know how those guys do it. It's insane. I couldn't do it. I mean, I could get there, but like it would take me years, and that's just something that I was not into. But I did the physical security, which was super cool. Like I literally went around with a little $10 gadget, taking people's like I'd be in their lunch line, and I once got like the CEO's you know tag, like data entry tag. I cloned it, put on a new card, and next thing you know, I'm sitting in his office. He's like, "What is going on?" And he was like, "And who are you?" I was like, "I'm the intern you guys hired, and you got some problems."
Oh my God, that's pretty. So you just got to like play secret agent almost.
Yeah, and like I had it written out like exactly. So like especially in the industry when you're doing this legally, one, you can get into a lot of trouble. Like there's horror stories of guys getting locked up because they're on an operation like breaking into banks where they had permission. Like this was a known agreement, but you know the bank security doesn't know that. This is at a high up level.
Oh right.
And so like officers come, arrest them, put them in jail. The guys are like, no, like we have our contract right here. We're allowed to do this. Officer's like, I don't care. You were just in a bank, like on their computer trying to steal stuff. So you can get in really big trouble for this. My contract was written out. It was like I was full-time salaried employer or employee of this company. A lot of faces knew me. So like I wasn't I wasn't that sketchy. But yeah, people get in trouble, man, all the time for this, and it can be scary for sure.
Do you think? I mean, they usually go get those guys, right? Who like they might do a night in prison until someone comes and gets them.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, but I forget the company. I mean, quick Google, you'll find it. I don't know if it was Optiv or it was a big security, well-known security company out in Denver, Colorado, where they had two guys doing one of their operations, and they were in county for like 30 days or something like that.
Jesus.
Yeah. No, it can get bad. And there's a podcast I used to listen to called Darknet Diaries, super cool. But like this guy was like, he was hired to go to a bank in, I want to say Saudi Arabia, a Middle Eastern country, well developed though. And he walked into the wrong bank because he didn't read the language. He didn't read Arabic. He walked into the wrong bank. The driver dropped him off, said, yeah, this is the one. Walked into the wrong one and got what he thought he was supposed to get from that bank, and then ended up in foreign prison for like 2 months, dude. It's crazy stories.
I would never say that. I mean, it's got to be a rush, but that there's just
yeah, no, absolutely. Which is like at one point I was like, maybe I should do this, and my mom was like, yeah, you're not. I don't care if you're a grown man, you're not doing that. And I was like, all right, fair enough.
So now moving into what you do now, how do you use those skills?
Yeah, so first of all, I do it completely. It's completely voluntarily. Like I do not get paid. I never collect a reward money. I try to stay anonymous because it's just, to me, that's not really what I'm in it for. It's really to keep my skills going, because if you don't use it, you lose it. Like technology moves so fast, you're gonna lose it. So I just do it to keep those skills up. But I basically I do it through, sometimes I do it through this company it's a nonprofit called Trace Labs, where they put on events where it's a capture the flag. In normal hacking terms, a capture the flag event is, there's a file or something on a computer and you try to hack and go in and get it. The missing people capture the flag, they'll post real missing people cases, sometimes spanning back to like 10 years. And they say, go at it. Whatever you find, you submit, you get points. There's a leaderboard, and everything that they find that's new information gets sent to authorities. Those are really nice because I'm not in the spotlight, right? It's not me sending anything to the authority. It's through another company. I don't have to deal with it. I'm on a team. Like it's really low key. But also sometimes I do go off and I will go on to, the missing people's database. I'll find one that kind of seems like the right, like they're in the right age. The demographic of them is going to mean that I have something to go off of. It's going to be hard for anyone to find a 60-year-old that's missing that only has a Facebook. It's going to be impossible. But so that's kind of how I choose them. It's like, I look for the demographic. I read a little bit, quick Google, how old were they when they went missing? When was it? Like, if it was recent. Those are really good starting points for me to be able to put together a full investigation. Now, those investigations, ground level, will always just start with me Googling the name and finding as much information as I can. I put it on a notepad on my computer, and I just take down as much information as possible. Now, from there, what would you like to know? Because this could go, like, I don't want to make this too long, but this is one of those things that could go really in depth. But kind of, what do you want to know as far as like, where do I go next?
Like, do you sort of go looking for social media profiles on?
Okay.
And you're probably, when you say certain demographic, you're probably talking about people who sort of are of the age where they use social media a fair amount.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, the first of all, I just want to say, like, none of this work should be glorified in my mind. Like, these are a lot of the time young people that are going missing, a lot of the time sex trafficking, kidnapping, things like that. And it's scary and like very real. That being said, yes, what you said is correct. Like, I'm looking for 13, 14-year-olds to, mid 20s, even 30 sometimes, that are going to be online, that are going to have that presence, that are going to have a lot of posts, that are going to have a lot of breadcrumbs that I can go off of. Now, bringing in social media, there's the easiest thing to do is start with the big ones, right? You got your Instagram, you got Twitter, TikTok now, and Facebook. Those are the big ones. Snapchat can be a little hard to find anything just because of the nature of it. But like, I have seen people that have like the sponsored Snapchat stories that you find, and those are database, and like, you can find some information on them. It's rare, but you can. But the big ones are what you're going to want to really look at. Now, as far as where I start is, I run everything on a virtual machine. It's completely isolated from my desktop computer, and it's set up just for these investigations. I copy it, I clone it, I go through a checklist, and then I start my investigation. Where I'm going to start is all of my social media scripts. These scripts are pre-written, where I can put Billy Football in for Instagram and pull all of your photos, all of your metadata, all of your followers, most interactions. I can get a ton of information, and it takes 3-4 minutes to completely download everything on that person for one social media. Then I'll go to Twitter, do the same thing. Facebook, do the same thing, looking for friends, families, relationships, all of that. And I basically just start scrolling through all of that on my computer until something catches my eye. It's a lot like I was saying earlier with my old security job, it's a lot like seeing patterns, right? So you'll see patterns in pictures, Instagram pictures, like, okay, these people or this person often, hangs out at night, like around the campfire with their friends, right? And they're a little younger. Why all of a sudden is there a picture of them in Fiji with this person that you have never seen on their Instagram before, right? So you kind of do that, and then you go into the other social medias and being like, you look for their patterns of tweets and being like, okay, all of a sudden their tweets have kind of taken a turn to this little darker like sense, or kind of getting more like very first person, like this is me, or very third person, this is me, like this is what's going on. And you see those patterns. So now you kind of have a timeline, right? Now you kind of see, like, nothing is certain, right? People, especially with young people, like, we all age very rapidly, could just be a phase, who knows? But you start seeing these patterns, and then that's a good jumping off point to, all right, let's see who they're hanging out with at that time, what they're doing at that time, where they're kind of starting to go like socially and do these things. And it's the reason I got burnt out is because it's like, well, now I'm living not living these people's lives, but I know so much about these people. I don't know who this person is. Like, they could live in Australia. I don't know, but like, this is what kind of got me to step away from it. So I'd take it very slowly now, make sure I'm like good mental headspace for it. But it's truly interesting. Like, so I can speak a little about kind of why I'm on the interview. Is I recently did find the location of a living person, a missing person. I'm not going to go into details at all about the case, but I can go through tactics. So like I said, I almost always start with Instagram because it seems to be the most personal. Like, images speak, like an image is worth 1,000 words. Like, that's true. It is a little more personal. So I saw this pattern of where this person was all the time. Very like small town, hometown person. And then all of a sudden, there was one picture where they were in like a beautiful Caribbean like area. And I was like, that doesn't really seem like this person would do that normally, right? If they're taking a vacation, they're going to this like the water park or the the amusement park, like, doesn't seem right. And then so from there, there was another person in that picture. So I'm like, all right, instantly I got to check who that person is, right? I've got to look at them, see what's going on, take all their information, do the same thing, start going through their patterns and seeing like, hey, they're kind of hanging out with some shady characters, that it seems like. And then all of a sudden you see a picture of them together that has no context out of the rest of their social appearance, right? And you're like, all right, something's up. Like, this seems a little fishy. So then you go start going through metadata. Where was the picture taken? What can you see? Geolocation. And then you start to connect the dots. Okay, these people live pretty close to each other. Do they know each other? Do they have families that know each other? Things like this. And those dots, it's I've been doing this for a few years now. I've only found 2 people. This one I found on my own. The other one, I had a team of 5 other people helping me find them. So it's rare, man. Like, it is not easy to connect these dots. But when you do kind of have like a little epiphany moment where it's like, this doesn't seem right, it's kind of the aha moment. Your investigation's far from over, but now you really have a good stepping stone to where to go next.
There's so much involved in that whole process you talk about. Number one, just, the tools that, through IT to sort of sort through that data. And 2, sort of the psychological, like, the psych knowledge you have to know to analyze the patterns of the posts. That's something you probably, did they teach you that, or like, how did you, or was that just inhibition?
So, just like any college degree, like, you have a bunch of courses that you might not use, right? But are still kind of like, can relate to your degree. One of them that I took was it was a psych course, right? Social interactions and social engineering. It was for the IT degree, but it was very much a psych course. That was like the most besides that and digital forensics, that was like the most interesting course I'd taken in all 4 years of college. So when I went full time, I had a mentor who has been doing social engineering. Social engineering is, you always feel like those prank shows or whatever, where a guy walks in with a neon vest and a ladder and a clipboard and just walks past security and doesn't say anything. And they're like, oh, hey, that's social engineering. At like, it's the simplest way to describe it. That's social engineering. So that is where I kind of learned some of that psychology behind of analyzing people's lives. It's always weird to me when I am analyzing people's lives like that online, because it's very personal, right? Like, this is a lot of these missing people are not going to be, they're not going to have a big podcast written out like after them. They're going to have 800 followers, it's so it's personal, but you do kind of just like get to know them. And then once you know them, it's almost like any other relationship. It's really weird to explain, but it's almost like any other relationship where it's like an acquaintance, right? Like, you see them, you kind of know what they do, the gist of it. And from there, it's very just like nature takes over, and you just, it's those like social interactions just happens to be behind a screen.
Wow. Now,
so it's kind of just Yeah, so it was just a combination of like
Right.
book learning and truly just being
A
like
human.
a human. Right,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And just like detective skills that, all of us probably subconsciously use when dealing with
Yes.
social. Now, when you're looking at that data, I'm just wondering, so for example, could you see uh if a certain user had been looking at the profile, but if they hadn't been
So
interacting?
I mean, you're not going to see, so this is all public information, technically, right? Like there are boundaries. Like if it's a private profile, it is harder to get any information. Sometimes you can't get any pictures. So that's kind of one of my criteria is that, all right, I need at least a couple of social media accounts that are public, right? That I
Hmm.
can just take all their pictures and start looking. Now, where the data really stops, I would say, is geolocation.
Hmm.
After that, interactions are a little hard. Twitter interactions, you can see some, but like you're not gonna get like who's clicking their profile. Like
Right.
at early days, you might have been able to get IPs. I can't really talk about that. I'm not sure, but like you're not gonna see that. Everyone's masked, and that's on the back end of that app.
Mhm.
So it is, like I said, it truly is looking for a needle in a haystack. Like if you get lucky, you get lucky, but it's hard to get lucky, and they have to be a very like they have to have a strong online presence, because I've had cases where like through that other company that I was mentioning, Trace Labs, like I've had cases where it's a person goes missing. It was 10 years ago. Social media wasn't as prevalent as it is now, and you just hope to find something, and then like something might point to like a very underground, almost like dark web dating site that you're like, okay, this is their, like this is them. But that is so rare and hard to find that it's
Yeah.
truly like it you find a lot of dead ends, and it's often because you miss something, but often it's just because there's just not enough to look at.
Wow. So hypothetically, if I went missing, can I count on you to come find me?
We
That
can. I think Billy's list could get something going. I think we got a lot of smart dudes in here that could help you out and find you, and hopefully you're not in a ditch. Hopefully you're alive. Maybe you were just a little angsty and ran away. Like we're good.
like I'm just like, bye internet, I'm out.
Yeah,
I
and I
mean,
do want to say, like, some of these, like, not personally, I haven't, but some of these cases, there is a large percentage where it really is just like, um, a young, say 14, 15-year-old that is going through puberty, like going through changes, and ran away, right? And
mm,
they just didn't tell anyone, and 99% of the time when that happens, they come back. But like, it's not all super depressing.
right.
Like these people are getting trafficked. Like I do want to say, not everyone goes missing just because they were kidnapped. However, those are the ones that I don't care about. Like if they're an angsty person and I find that out and they just ran away, it's like, all right, like glad I looked. Like I'm glad they're alive. Super happy everything works. But on to the next. I don't care.
You report that though, right?
Yeah. You report everything to the authorities. You just send it into usually local authorities, unless it's a higher case. Like sometimes FBI like will be on it. You report it, and then they'll just get back to you, be like, yeah, we know, we're good. Be like, all right, cool. Like that's great.
I mean, that is some amazing, like, it's great to know that there's people out there doing the work you do, just pro bono, just because you want to. Because I mean, I can't even imagine how many different missing people who people have just given up on, even their own families.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's one funny one that I wasn't a part of, but someone close to me was a part of a team where a guy joined, college age guy joined the Marines, didn't tell anyone, and then went to basic or whatever, the like OBS, whatever the Marines is,
Yeah.
and didn't tell anyone, and just was like, yeah, I just did it. And their family was freaking out. So it was like missing people went out, like a missing persons report went out. And then like the Marines got like saw it and got back to him, like, yeah, dude, like he's in like Camp Shepherd right now. Like he's fine. He just joined the army or the military. So it's like those are the best cases, right? Like just oddball, like weird things going on.
Yeah.
Those are like the ones that you laugh about. You're like, this is ridiculous. Like, what? How does someone do that? But to each their own.
I mean, it's great to focus on some of these lighthearted cases, but for the sake of journalism, like,
No, yeah, absolutely.
you ever stumbled upon things where you found a real, like, maybe that someone's not just missing, but they're gone? Like,
Yeah, I mean, it like I said, not myself personally, but I talk to a lot of people that do this, and there are a lot of people that are way better than me. I want to say
right.
that, like, I like what I do. I do it. I strictly do it to keep my skills up, and like if I can help someone out, that's great. They find people every day, man, and in a lot of the time they're they are gone, like for reasons, whatever reasons. But yeah, no, some stories don't end happily.
Yeah, geez. I mean, you got to think, like, sometimes they find the location and then, they're not. Oy,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
tough. Whoa.
And most of those do go with geolocation. So a lot of missing people's reports, like they, obviously I don't, but like authorities have, they have their phone, so they can check, the Google data or the Apple Maps data that shows them, like, it's a lot quicker way to find people if they can get into that phone. Like, all right, this is where they are, and they haven't moved in 10 days, so we're guessing we're going to go find a body.
Do you ever get access to location data, or is that something the only authorities have?
That's really something only the authorities have. However, there have been cases where the families or authorities, like, have the okay to release the information, and that data does become public. Usually they are teaming up with a nonprofit that is kind of anonymous, and like that's what they do. Sometimes you will get that information. It comes in big data packets and it's not pretty to look at. All my scripts are super, like, fun and pretty to look at, and like runs like Google basically. But yeah, so sometimes you do get that, and that's a huge help. And those are the ones that, like, feel way less like stressful, because it's like, all right, I'm not the only one looking at this person. Like, there's probably a lot of other people looking for them as well.
Wow. I mean,
like, this is one of those things that you could go on for hours. Like, obviously, like, we're trying to go, like, very succinct, but it's, if you guys haven't watched, like, Don't Fuck with Cats, it's like a great documentary. Yeah. And they did it so well, and like very, like, that's what I do. And like I have gotten on Google Maps, and like I found the crossroads of like this really obscure picture, and like I found the crossroads, and like didn't necessarily find the person, but like, all right, this is where it was. They're probably, within a couple hundred miles of what that was. So like a lot of those tactics, super cool, good for them. I'm glad they put that documentary out to like shine the light on, like, there are people that just do this just because, like, something ticked them off on the internet. It's like, we are going to find you. Like, this is going to happen.
I mean, that Don't Fuck with Cats documentary, for those who haven't seen it, basically a group of people on the internet who really love cats. And there's a lot of people who love cats on the internet. I think one of, like, back when the internet first started, the number one thing that people Googled was cat images. So there's this guy online who killed a cat on camera, and through a series of videos and pictures, this internet community was able to figure out where exactly this guy was, how it had happened, using stuff like electrical sockets and lights. And they were able to geolocate it through the electrical sockets that was in, Russia. And they then found the guy, who they then figured out was also committing murders. And it's a great documentary.
Yeah,
check it out.
And it's absolutely insane. And like, I've never gone that deep into it, because like I work a full-time job. I just don't have that time. And like, geniuses. That woman, the Carol Baskin-esque woman, like, that woman was crazy, but like in the best way possible. Like, a round of applause to her. It was absolutely nuts. One other thing, dark web, very real. Don't go on it. It's a scary place. You'll end up on lists that you don't want to be on.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. I mean, it's crazy. When we were talking about the macrodosing Discord before, you obviously some sort of deep web chat room got a hold that there was an open Discord, and just started pumping it with trolls, and just like basically one of their buddies said, hey, there's a Discord that's open, no mods yet, and we can, mess with it. Thank you to everybody who helped out on Billy's List moderate that place. Shout out software development guy Zach. Claps to you.
I mean, yeah, man, it's that place was rough. It's rough in the chat. I mean, it's rough. Absolutely.
It was one of those things where they created it. Mad Dog, is one of the sweetest, most idealistic people. Had no idea that this could happen. She thought it would just be like the Facebook group, or like, we're opening up.
Like.
Yeah. And Jake, real estate guy, Andrew and law guy too. And then so yeah, a bunch of people started posting all sorts of stuff in it. Definitely, they set it up, but we had to get some moderators from our Discord, which was thoroughly vetted by me through an application process. But we did let in one scammer to Billy's List. That's on me. That's on me.
We were solid for a long time. Sometimes the walls fall, but we build them right back up, boys.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, now we're going to take any questions from the chat for our Moonshiner - finder. What would you call yourself in that category?
OSINT Investigator.
OSINT Investigator.
Yeah, OSINT.
If you
and go ahead.
If you don't mind, I might spice up the title to
all good.
I might be, Moonshiner - human trafficker.
Not a human trafficker.
No, but human trafficking. I know, human trafficking investigator. How about that? No, we don't have to cut. Everyone will get that. That makes me look bad.
Human trafficker. Let's just cut all those words. Like
Moonshiner, human trafficker, investigator,
missing person finder. That's fine.
Okay, we'll just go with that. Like I have a feeling that this has been an amazing interview. Thank you so much for coming on.
Of course, man. I appreciate it.
I mean, someone from the chat mentioned halfway through it, like, we try to get the chat going so, these conversations can get viewpoints that the two of us sometimes don't take into account. I think that's where Billy's List is going to like get one up over Joe Rogan, the live audience.
Heck
We're gonna get more viewpoints. That's where we take them down. That's our niche.
What's the strangest thing you found in your searches? Not gross or illegal stuff, but just weird. That's a good question. I mean, you said not like sexual or not gross. Furries, like a lot of furry guys out there. Just I don't know why the furry population goes missing, but like enough for me to connect the pattern and be like, this is just weird.
They all end up on the same furry reserve.
Like is there like a place in Washington, like near Spokane or something I don't know about? I don't know. So yeah, and then once you get into dark web, like it is a scary place, but oftentimes it is just a place where people don't want to have a Reddit for, it's not a fetish, just like for what they like to do. And like they are like weird things, like there was one that they had this fantasy of being like a train conductor, but only had really small model trains and would like literally try to sit on them and always break them. And it wasn't a joke. Like I couldn't tell. Usually I'm good at picking up that stuff, but really just weird stuff. And like you find a lot of that on the dark web, which like feels, completely like, okay, this is harmless. But then you'll also like see the stuff you don't want to see on the dark web that makes you kind of shut your computer and take a break, because it does get real and it's scary in there. And I use like different level like layers of security when I'm doing these. I have a separate computer. I have an isolated VPN. My Firefox is the best for anonymity. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Has a lot of really good security configurations that make searching things really annoying, but also can like keep you very, very anonymous. And so that's what I use, because, you know, like if you do scratch the wrong neck of someone, like it could come back to bite you. But I also don't really worry that too much about it. You gotta do what you gotta do. But dark web, stay away. It's just not worth it, guys.
Yeah. On that note, how do you make sure that like you defend yourself to a point where people know you're investigating and not sort of trying to, because I feel like that's a
so first of all, really quick, I think in the chat I saw something. So dark web meaning it's the dark web is often the easiest example is the Tor browser. It's a peer-to-peer. It's the internet but peer-to-peer, right? So your hops, your data goes through very many hoops, right? Whereas the regular internet, you're going from your router to ISP to internet, and that's it. Whereas dark web, peer-to-peer, you're jumping through a bunch of things, so it makes tracking down where they actually went a spider web and very hard to find. Now the NSA can do it, like it's been proven that they can do it, but like it's hard. It's not easy. It takes a lot, and so that's what the dark web is. So Billy, really quick, I just wanted to answer that, but what was your question again?
How do you make sure that, like, let's say you stumble upon something that is technically like how do people know that, you know, you're not trying to buy drugs or use a certain classifieds, but you're investigating?
Absolutely. So that's why going through like the nonprofit organizations that do this and set up events, that's where it really like helps, is because you are completely covered. So in the hacking world, there's 3 levels of hacking, right? To simplify it, there's white hat hacking, gray hat, and black hat. White hat being you're employed, it's you know, whether it's government, private sector, whatever, you have permission to be going into these systems. Gray hat blends the line, right? You're doing this hacking for good, but it is still illegal. You're hacking. You're going into someone's private, you know, some private entity's database, and you're trying to look for information. It is illegal. Now, you know, if you're going to go to law or go to court, like, you know, your lawyer can put up a fight, but technically you're breaking the law.
Yeah.
Black hat being bad, right? Hacking for nothing but bad purpose. OSINT isn't illegal at all because we're not going into any systems, right?
Right.
And it's not illegal to go on the dark web. It's illegal to make transactions, sex trafficking and buying drugs and all that, but it's not illegal. Frowned upon, sure, not illegal. So like OSINT is kind of that gray hat hacking, but I don't want to say that because we're not hacking at all. Everything is completely public. Anyone can find this information. We're not going back and trying to enter passwords. We're not doing that. I've never tried to hack into someone's account. I've never tried to get like on the back end of their social. That's not what I do. So in terms of like coverage, like I'm not breaking the law. I'm not gonna go to jail. Is Epstein's dudes gonna try to hunt me down and find me? I don't know. Hopefully not. But like that's a small risk that I'm taking. I don't feel like I'm putting myself at risk because I am using a lot of these different levels of security, and I have a degree and I know what I'm doing and I know how to protect myself. But like as far as dark web goes, all I do is look. I would never like, I don't want to click, right? Like I don't even want to go on there, but it's just surface level. If I can find it, then I find it. If I feel like I have to go deeper and like, and go to a place that I don't feel comfortable, I won't. And that's when I'll stop the investigation. And sometimes that is kind of like a hard line and hard to be like, I really want to keep going, but I feel like now I'm getting into like, now I think I just need to like pass it along to authorities and like say,
Yeah.
hey, hands are off. Like, I don't want to get into this.
Wow. I mean,
And I do want to say, like, 80%, not 80%, I don't know, a good portion of the time, I never even get to the dark web. Like, I don't need to do that.
right.
Because like I said, not a lot of things that happen are going to be related to sex trafficking or drug trade or things like that. Like, it's just by nature, it doesn't. But like, I have gotten to that point where it's just like, all right, I'm done. Here you go, authorities. Like, take it off, you know, take it from here. And everything I submit is just anonymous. They have like chat rooms and stuff, kind of hard to get into purposely. But it's anonymous, and I send it up, and basically, if I feel like I did good, I did good. If I'll give them everything, I'll give them a complete digital forensic copy of my machine. Just be like, you guys can go. There's not, like, I have nothing to hide. Look, this is what I did. You can see every click that I did. So like, it does give me coverage because I know that I am not doing anything illegal or bad.
Wow. I mean, this has been an amazing conversation. Definitely going to be in the top 5 Billy's List interviews forever because it's number 4. It's number 4. But I don't want to discourage.
So you're only doing 5 is what you just said.
Yeah, no. We're going to keep going. Well, this has been so interesting. Probably like, I mean, my dog's telling me that the hour's up.
Hey, what's up, Whitey?
Yeah, he's telling me that, you know, we're trying to keep these podcasts short.
Yeah, so that, no, absolutely, man.
No, but this has been
like I said, this
interesting.
is just by nature. This is just one of those things that, like, it's hard to find a stopping point because there is so much that you know, the internet is just so big, so it's hard to find a stopping point. But I think we did a pretty good job kind of wrapping up and getting into the succinct part of things.
This has been awesome. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for the chat, for tuning in. If you haven't already, subscribe to the Macrodosing YouTube. Hope we're going to have more Billy's List interviews coming up. Thank you to the Moonshiner - Missing Persons Finder for coming out. This has been amazing. Thanks, guys. I'm going to wrap it up right here. Chat, Moonshiner, feel free to stay after to discuss some more stuff. Thank you guys so much. And we're going to cut it off here. Subscribe to Macrodosing if you haven't.